Hello and welcome to Triathlonology, a triathlon podcast by Animis Racing team. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Jacqui. We are a mum and son coaching team who have changed our lives through the sport of triathlon.
Our podcast aims to break down the mysteries of triathlon training and show you, the listener, how simple and flexible it can be so that it really does become part of your lifestyle and not just a hobby. Hello and welcome to another episode of Triathlonology, a podcast by Animis Racing team.
I'm Coach Jacqui.
And I'm Coach Ollie, and together we're a mum and son coaching team based in South Yorkshire and North Lincolnshire, giving straightforward advice in a no-nonsense Yorkshire style. Today's episode, we are going to talk about the slow death, or rather more quick deaths of triathlon racers.
Especially small races.
But all races, really.
Yeah, because, Oliver, we've learned that the Clumber Park Duathlon that's been a mainstay of triathlon events for the last 20 years is not doing it.
It's cancelled.
Cancelled. And that's a qualifier.
Yeah, so if for people who are listening outside of the UK or people who are reading this outside the UK, then British Triathlon selects a number of races to be a qualifying event to qualify for British age group multi-sport teams, either duathlon or triathlon, which is usually a way of, some races guaranteeing their income because everybody will enter who wants to qualify for Great Britain. And for as long as we've been in multi-sport, Clumber Park has been a duathlon qualifier, always in March, which is one of the last, or late February, one of the last few qualifying events that you could do to qualify for the following years.
Yes, that's right.
Duathlon, be it European or world, depending on what British Triathlon had said it was for. And it was really popular.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, like we've talked before about having massive transitions. Well, at Clumber Park, it was a massive, massive transition because hundreds and hundreds of people did the event, and from first-timers to real top-quality age groupers.
And if you don't know where Clumber Park is, which some of you might not do, it is a National Trust property in like Worksoppy border area.
So North Notts.
Yeah, North Notts, about 10 or 15 miles down the A1 from Doncaster. And it was, some of the run went through the park, some of it, and then the bike had a little bit of loop through the park, but also had a closed road part of it, out to actually on the main road. So it was and it was organised by, now Tri Society.
But it used to be One Stop Beyond.
Yes, who had been organising triathlon events since God were a lad.
So consequently, really, really well organised. Ran like a dream, really efficient, everything.
Yeah, proper event, proper first-class events company. And, we read on Facebook that they had to cancel Clumber Park Duathlon because they just couldn't financially afford to continue with it, with the amount of people,
the lack of people
who had entered and the costs that were incurred in doing the event, like paying for the road closures, probably paying National Trust to use the land, amongst everything else, like insurance.
Yeah, because I've got British Triathlon insurance as a club. There have been commercial insurance which has gone up tremendously. So you can feel for them because when it comes to an event like that, stopping, that's serious.
It's a real. Events are almost in a bit of a death spiral because you don't get people wait till the last minute to enter, and so either the event gets cancelled or you don't have as many people enter because everyone's waiting till the last minute and then they forget about it, and so you make less money, if any money at all. And then next year you have to put your price up, which means people then think you're going to cancel it again, they don't want to pay that amount of money.
Yeah.
And then they wait, and then you have your race where fewer people do it.
So you make
even less money. And then you have to put your price up again because your costs go up. It's just
a spiral.
It's a very difficult set of circumstances as event organisers to do at the minute. And this is not a criticism of event organisers at all, because we know from running our very small event
that it is scary.
Mhm.
I think that's the word, scary, Oliver, because
Yeah.
the amount of money involved, even in something as small as ours, is considerable, and we just take it as a something that we'd have to put the money up for. So you can imagine that on the scale that Tri Society were putting it on, that would be thousands and thousands of pounds.
Yeah, it would be huge, such a risk, and you do have to draw a line eventually and say, actually, before we incur all these massive costs that we can't back out of, we have to pull the plug and say we're not doing it. And it's even more remarkable that this is a qualifying event, so you would expect people to be entering well ahead of time, trying to qualify for representing Great Britain. And I know duathlon is harder, in my opinion.
I can tell you it is definitely harder than
triathlon. I think it is, because you've got to run 5K from the off, then bike 20K, and then run 3K off the back of that, which is not,
it's hard.
It's for hard people and good athletes. So you're already, not necessarily attracting everybody, but it was still.
And also, it was a start of season hit out for some people as well, seeing how the winter training was going, and it was a very social occasion as well, because you met up with people who you'd see from one year to another. So it's awful, really, that
it's things that you can't control either, that are not necessarily people entering an event. That's again something you can't control, but you've got more control of with marketing. But it's external costs, things like barriers, which they will have needed so many barriers to make it safe at Clumber Park, for the risk assessment. And because they would have been expecting more than 150 participants, they have to have a mobile ambulance as well as medics at HQ, at Race HQ. So that's an expense, let alone like road closures, which we know have stopped a lot of
running events
from happening in the last 6 months, because the council wanted too much money to shut the roads.
Because you can understand it, it's like everything in this country at the minute is costing more, because the government's not putting any money in, the councils aren't getting any money, so how can they afford to put road closures on? They've got to, although it is, you think, oh, it's expensive and what have you, but you can understand the reasons why. And
well, I think most people can. I mean, some people are like,
have a rant on Facebook. Why is it coming wrong?
Another event cancelled, or prices going up, and like nobody wants to put the prices up where it becomes unaffordable for people to enter. Nobody wants to do that. But there is a commercial reality that these events have got. You can't have event organisers or clubs paying for things for other people to have a good time.
Exactly.
That's not how it works.
No, and also I would also say, Oliver, marshals, because they would have had to have paid marshals, because they needed to be professional and make sure that we're all safe when we're riding and when we're competing. You can't get marshals for love and money. We're very lucky in that in our little event we've got a little core team that all pull together, but without that, people expect just to turn up and race. I don't know whether it's a COVID attitude or whatever, but people are so. I find that people are more entitled, think they're entitled these days.
I think COVID has definitely changed, has definitely scarred people from entering events, because they don't enter now on the fear that if they get cancelled, they won't get their money back.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Also, if you don't enter an event, there won't be an event, and they just won't come back. I'd be very surprised to see Clumber Park come back next year, because it will get more expensive. And once it's gone, you then have to think, is it worthwhile trying to resurrect this?
Do you want to take that on? Do you want to take that headache, that financial risk on?
Yeah, especially when people are not necessarily running in front of them. We know, because this is the day that we're just so we're recording this on the 22nd of January. It might not be necessarily at that time when it goes out, but it's just the 22nd of January today. Our event in Crawl is in May, so 4 months away, and we've got half a dozen to a dozen people paid for this already. And we would expect to get, between 70 and 100 people do it. And here we are with like 10 in 4 months before, when I can tell you before, COVID, and
would have been sold out.
We'd have been, on the last, remnants of people getting entered. It is tremendously difficult. And so really, that's the state of play in triathlon events and like non-major events, as in like London Marathon and what have you.
Great North Run, or
Events that are put on by small companies or by small clubs. That state of events that they're in this death spiral. So, what could be done
to help
and to keep events happening? Well, we have some ideas, and we're going to try and cover them in here. And it'd be really helpful if you could give us what your suggestions might be.
Yeah, and also, we're probably going to get criticism for this, but
probably going to get into trouble with some people.
Yeah, we probably will get into trouble with some people. But we said at the outset, we're from Yorkshire. We speak as we find, and we tell the truth.
If we don't have honest conversations amongst the triathlon community and
how is it going to fix
community about what the problems are and potential solutions to it, it's never going to get fixed. And then we'll all just shuffle our feet and think, oh well, we used to have such a thriving race, amateur racing, and now they've all but disappeared. And I, for one, want to avoid that.
So, what do we think? One of the things that we've come up with, and we have had numerous conversations with the national governing body, which is British Triathlon, about what they can do, because they are the national governing body. And I don't care how many Johnny Brownlees, how many Ali Brownlees, Beth Potters, non-Stanfords, Vicky Hollands, whatever, are representing us at elite level. Without grassroots events, they would never, ever have got started. And they will tell you that themselves. So we've had this conversation with British Triathlon, but falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, so we've had several conversations, including an AGM for the Yorkshire region, where we said these things will be really helpful because you have a buying power as a national organisation to be able to help, small races out. Why? The biggest thing that costs us the most money.
Well, two things
that cost us the most money and are wildly unpredictable, even race to race, because when we did our 2021 race, the cost of one of these went 2022 race, the cost of one of these went up by 50% in the middle of the year, by which point we'd already got the race open. So we couldn't adjust the prices. So first thing, barriers. You are supposed to have safety barriers to make transition safe, or, some people hire a mugger, which does it for you, but then there's a cost involved in that as well. But you also need to have safety barriers to let people in and out of the facility on bikes or on the run and keep spectators away from, a live race scene. They are tremendously expensive to hire and continue to go up. And it's not just the hiring of the barriers that cost a fortune.
It's the transport.
Yes, and that is just insane. Like the amount that these cost for how little that you need, or our event in particular needs, is ridiculous. And you can't get less than 100. So even though we've worked out that we only need 56 at maximum for our event, the most we can have. So we've got
the least we can have is 100.
So we've basically got to double it because we can't. There's no negotiation with them. And so we've suggested to British Triathlon, it would be why don't you use some of your money that you get from Sport England to purchase barriers,
keep them
install them in regional locations, and let clubs hire them from you and use them for their events. And over time, that will pay itself back. Not instantaneously, but maybe over 5 or 10 years, it'll pay, BTF will get the money back on that.
Yeah, because it's not as if barriers blinking deteriorate either.
No, they're aluminium.
So, yeah, that's a good idea, Jacqui. Oh, yeah, what a really good idea that is. Nothing.
Secondly, medical assistance.
Medical assistance is... Well, let's put it this way. Our first race, it was £220.
Last race, it was nearly 500.
No, it was. I negotiated them down to 500.
Yeah,
and that's from 2019 to 2023
for the same amount of people.
Yeah,
in the same course.
Yeah,
but just with a different provider because people went out of it, during COVID, and then there's only like last man standing. So again, we said to them, "Hey, British Triathlon, why don't you try and link up with somebody like St John's Ambulance or Red Cross or somebody like that, where you can say, we'll recommend all our all our club races and we'll get a preferential rate for all BTF sanctioned events so that people buy these services from you and you'll give us a better rate in return for that."
What a good idea.
Has anything happened? No. So you stuck.
The other thing, Oliver, timing.
Yeah. Although, to be fair,
We've been all right with timing
Yep.
because the chap is
amenable. And
amenable.
commercially, he realises that if he charges us too much, we don't have an event, he don't get paid.
But it's still a big cost. And it's something that British Triathlon could help with. But although this is just 3 of the things that we said to him.
Yeah.
And think, and they're like, I don't know whether they think that just by saying, yeah, what a good idea, blah de blah de blah, and also I thought that they should be wheeling out the elites at more events, because without.
Well, you've now got the perverse situation where Ali and Johnny Brownlee have bought their own events to run, rather than like helping out British Triathlon. And I can see why they bought events, because they want to do something in their retirement. But it strikes me completely bizarre that nobody at British Triathlon has said to him, you really need to start, paying us back, because if it weren't for us, you wouldn't be here.
No.
But I think there are far too many people who think that they owe the jobs to
the Brownlees.
Well, and to like how successful that Leeds Triathlon Centre has been from 2012 to probably 2020, and that nobody wants to
upset the apple cart,
rock the boat and say, come on, it's payback time now, we need you. It is frustrating, because as people who run businesses,
hear our frustration in this, and like both of us run businesses, we know what we're talking about.
But you talk to people at British Triathlon, and what's more frustrating than anything is they all have the little projects that they're running independently of each other, which cynically, you think, well, they're doing this little project to get whatever data, and then they'll move on somewhere else because they've done that, and they're not really in it for a long term. And you can tell that by how many chief executive officers British Triathlon's had over the last 4 years. They order the little projects, move on to something else, and say how great that project was, where actually the sport's like burning and Nero's fiddling, in the background.
Because there's no way that, this swimming in Leeds dock for underprivileged members of society is going to get them involved in triathlon. No.
But there's too much.
There are lots of these little projects, especially now it's being rebranded to Swim Bike Run, which is another absolute waste of money, and something that, you can hear, I feel really, really aggrieved about, because if you're doing a triathlon, Go Tri says it's a triathlon.
It's to do with triathlon, and let's give it a go. Whereas Swim Bike Run is what? According to British Triathlon, it can be anything.
Yeah, and it is anything.
But it also, in my opinion, puts people off, because they look at Swim Bike Run and they don't go any further than that.
They think, I'm not doing
that's too difficult, because they don't know what a duathlon is, and they don't even look at any further than that, or they don't know what a quathlon is. They just see Swim Bike Run and think, that looks hard, I can't do it. Yeah. Whereas Go Tri meant you had to read what it says.
And it is about getting involved and trying, not, that you've got to be a competent swimmer, biker, or a runner, which it implies. And I can categorically say it's not just us that think this, because I was on a video call with everyone who organises Go Tri events, and we all said the same. What we need help with is getting back to where we were before COVID, not rebranding a Swim Bike Run.
But another way that people that can help events out, you just enter it.
Yeah, just come, just turn up.
And for the sake of how little it costs for event insurance, just buy yourself some event insurance. Yeah. So if the event does get cancelled for whatever reason, you'll get your money back. But there'll be fewer events get cancelled if more people enter. And just take the risk like we used to do before. Events aren't going to be cancelled for COVID anymore. They're only going to be cancelled for financial reasons. That's how it boils down to it. So we don't need to be worried about, is the event going to happen or is it not going to happen? Because if I get COVID, will I get my money back?
Well, you used to get flu and you didn't get your money back.
No, you didn't. People have been poorly before and you didn't get your money back for doing races. It was just one of the risks that you take when you're booking it 4 or 5 months out. But take event insurance out. It's not that expensive.
No.
It's not that expensive. And just get entered. Enter an event, enter it early and help people plan. Keep the events going, because once they've gone, it's really difficult to fetch them back.
It is.
People will keep them going for 2 or 3 years perhaps not making money, because Tri Society have said that they kept their events, this particular event, going for a couple of years and lost money on every single one, but they've got to the point where they just can't lose any more money.
And you can understand it.
Yeah. So and it's not like other events, like the relays that were insanely popular pre-COVID and not anywhere near as popular. No. So just enter, take out event insurance, which is not financial advice, but just take it out.
Yeah, and most triathletes have had a lot from triathlon. Give something back. Encourage your friends to get going. And also I will say, not everyone has to be an Ironman.
No.
In fact, I would say 90% of triathletes are not Ironman. And if you don't know what Ironman is, it's a long race.
Start with a small sprint. Or
Get
an
involved.
Olympic distance.
Get involved in the local events. Get involved in the local community. Join your local triathlon club. Get involved with what's going on around you. Yeah. Just take part.
Yeah, even if you are a bit of a lone wolf, enter events. There's plenty of them around, and it's
well, there's not as many as there were.
No, but there are still plenty to enter. I mean, we have an event every month. There are other places that have the swim, bike, run, or go try events on every month
that cost £5.
Yeah, but we can't even get people. We really struggle to get people to enter our event that costs £5. So
on a closed circuit.
Yeah, so it's not, in my opinion, it's not money, it's other stuff. And it's frustrating because you sat there thinking, well, what more can I do? How can I reach more people? What can I... And so really, just enter an event, because help is not coming from elsewhere. Help will only come from athletes themselves. And we collectively as a community have to rescue triathlon events, or there will be none. There will be none. Or not anywhere near you, or you'll have to drive miles to be able to go to one.
Yeah.
Which will eventually mean that they often die off. They'll die off as well, because there just won't be any. And we'll go back to being a niche sport we were before 2012, when there weren't many people doing them. And we've made such progress. It would be really sad for that to happen.
Because we wouldn't have been involved in triathlon if it wasn't for 2012.
No, and if we hadn't been able to go and watch Brig Sprint Triathlon.
Well, yeah, local to us to see what
a triathlon looked like.
Yeah, and people like us do it.
Yeah. You don't have to look like you do it like them at Olympics.
You don't have to be a racing snake.
Or what bike you went on.
Yeah, you don't have to have what I call a whoop whoop bike. Just have a monkey normal one you can buy from Alfred's or off Marketplace. That's all you need.
If we had to seen that and gone and had a look, we probably wouldn't have done it.
No.
But it was going to that local event that was 15 miles down the road from where we lived to go, oh, this is happening. And then the following year when we started it, there was events. We did 3 events the other side of the bridge, which is like 20 miles away. We did 2 events in Brig, 2 events in Epworth. So there were plenty, and we were within a 25-mile radius of where we lived. There was pretty much an event on all the time.
Yeah, you could do at least one a week, or once a fortnight.
Once a month there was an event.
There was an event
that you could do within 25 miles.
Yeah,
and the events
all at Hull, friendly.
The events at Hull have all gone now. Yeah,
definitely. That's where I did my first. Well, we both made our triathlon debuts in Hull at different times, but in Hull. So
Brig still continues. We've now got our event at Crowell and at Epworth if they ever get that leisure centre built in time, but otherwise it'll be at Crowell. So otherwise that event would have probably gone because Andy really struggled with that.
Yeah, he did, because he lost a load of money during COVID. And people don't. They all think, I've lost my race entry. When hundreds of small event organisers lost thousands in COVID, because
they did the right thing and gave people the money back.
Yeah.
But that meant that they then had to fork out the money themselves, and then they just thought,
why should I?
Well, I'm not doing it again. I'm not taking this risk again. I can't afford to.
I'm not risking my pension. Why would you?
And what had previously been a very buoyant market. Like I say, we would be sat here now thinking, we've got an event in May, and it's 85-90% sold out. We won't have to do very much. But we've got 10 people entered into it now. And the event will be going because, if nothing else,
we'll put it on ourselves. We'll just do it ourselves.
The sponsorships that we've got will underwrite the cost of it. if needs be. So if we only have 50 people do it, we'll just underwrite the losses, so it doesn't really matter. But we're fortunate enough to be able to say that because we run our own businesses, or me particularly run the business that can afford to do it. So that will happen, but that won't necessarily be the case elsewhere.
No.
It won't. And it's really sad. I mean, even last year, we got rid of barriers.
Yeah.
We got rid of barriers to save ourselves an expense. We hired some from the Peatland Railway.
Yeah, who were really helpful and wanted, because they're local, they understood that we were putting on a local event like they did, and the share, we just helped each other out.
Yeah. And we made it work. It didn't look as pretty, but it worked, and we ended up just about breaking even because we had less people enter it than the year before. But we did it. And we certainly wouldn't have done. Well, no, less people then entered it than the year before, because we had to cancel as May one because people didn't do it. So if you are on the fence about entering a race, just enter it, because if you don't, it might not be here next year, and then you'll be on Facebook saying, "Oh, it's a real shame that this event's gone. I used to like doing it, or I'm going to enter it next week." Sometimes they're into next week, so just enter it and help people and keep this community going. Because if we don't all support each other, and that goes for clubs working with each other as well.
Clubs should work together, because there's too many fiefdoms in local sport. We should all be working together. It's a joint problem, and together we could
keep things going. Because if we don't have these things, then all as members will suffer, because there won't be races, and then they'll think, what's the point
in training?
And then we'll all disappear, and it becomes an individual sport again, rather than the thriving sport that it was and is still. So just enter an event.
So that's been a bit of a rant this week, but I think sometimes you have to say what you feel, and we feel, you can tell, I think we feel really passionately about triathlon.
We don't want to see it die.
No.
I can see the train coming down the track here, and nobody's prepared to pull the lever to move it onto a different one. Everyone stood there like a big cow that, them cartoons of cows that walk out into the track and look at it with little wide eyes. I feel that that's what's happening with triathlon. It's just been trapped by the headlights of this train that's belting its way towards it, and no one's prepared to do anything. So we're going to say this, and it might only be a few hundred people listening to this. We never know. But
it could be a trickle-down effect, and by the fact that we've actually said something and what people have been thinking, well, if it upsets British Triathlon, so be it.
Yeah, all criticism is good. This is constructive criticism on how they can help. It's not just slagging them off endlessly.
No, we're not slagging them off. We want them to help.
Yeah, but it won't happen unless we all force them to force the change.
So, after that,
help in any way that you can.
Volunteer, marshal, enter races, get in touch, tell us what you think.
Yeah, how would you help increase people participating in races? How would you help bring the cost down of track? What could people do who are organising in events to help bring the cost down? Love to hear your suggestions.
I've been Coach Jacqui.
I'm Coach Ollie. Until next time,
we'll see you.
Thank you for joining us today.
See you next time.
See you then. Or as we say in Yorkshire, Siddy.